So we got that 67 and the 69 GT in that we did the wheel swap to, and I said I was going to try to do will they run video. So here we are. We're going to find out will they run. We're going to start with the 67 because I currently don't have the key with the 69. So it seemed like a better idea to start here. And this one's the more mysterious one. We don't have a clue how long it's been running. How long since it's been running. It seems like it's been an awful long time, but curiously enough, we got what looks like a parking sticker from the city of Franklin, Virginia, and from 2010. And I don't think that it was driving around on the tires that were on this thing at least, so if it was mobile in 2010, somebody's had to swap wheels, because those tires are 40 years old probably, 30 years old. At any rate, I've already made sure that it does turn over by hand, because when I was underneath it, the starter bendix was stuck into the ring gear of the flywheel. I've lubricated all that and got it to free itself. Now, if we do get this thing to turn over, it may get stuck again. We don't know. So it's got oil in it. There's oil in the carbs, but we got a huge vacuum leak to take care of if we do get it to where it might actually run. So what we're going to start with is just hook up a jump pack to it, turn the key, and see if it'll turn over. So this thing's still hooked up positive ground like it left the factory. You can always check your coil wires against the wiring diagram to tell that. Because if it's a positive wire is going to the distributor, then it's still positive ground. Otherwise, it'd be the negative wire going to the distributor. So let's see if we got any kind of connection, anything happens. And we got nothing at all. Well, let's push the button up there and see what happens. Since these earlier cars have this switch here, it's got a button on the side of it. You can always push that and nothing whatsoever. Now, the battery cables have been extended into the trunk or the rear hatch areas where it's by the spare tire now, and we may not just be getting connection. So we'll have to play with that a little bit and see if we can get some kind of power. So I got power up to here, but it seems like the solenoid itself is a dud, but we'll just see, you know, if we can get get any kind of connection here to get it to do anything here. So yeah, it's a lot of bad connections, and we're going to have to figure out how to get power to things and probably skip the solenoid and the switch in order to do this. So apparently my one jump box is just garbage now. And I got another little jump pack that I just bought that I didn't think was charged enough to use yet. Went ahead and stuck it on there, and on the key, oh, well, yeah, I got to reset it. Okay, it's a bit of a pain to use because it kicks itself out and resets itself, only lets it go for so many seconds, and it shuts itself off for some reason. But now we can continue. The next thing we can do is watch for spark on the points. I got the key on and we turn it over here. And I got nothing, so we need to clean the points and then check, make sure we got power to the coil, all that stuff, until we can get a spark there at the points while it's turning over. So I've cleaned the points a little bit, took the rotor off so you can see. We're getting little sparks happening, not super consistent, maybe a little more cleaning and we'll be there. You can also do this. You can see we got a spark there. So yeah, now we can put the cap on, see if we got any spark at the plugs. So I got a spark checker here, and we'll see if my jump pack stays going. So we got nothing. Probably gonna have to go ahead and put a different set of spark plug wires on it to get anything. So I'll get my test cap and wires out and we'll throw that on here real quick. All right, now I got the cap and wires changed out. Let's see what we got. Still nothing. So we gotta go back, clean the points again, make sure the rotor's clean enough, all that stuff. So here we are the next day, because I was starting that pretty late in the day yesterday. And when I wasn't getting any spark and I cleaned the points some more, I just said, yeah, I'm done for the day. So we come out today, start taking another close look at it. I went ahead and cleaned the points a little bit more, still had no spark. Changed the coil out just to do a check. Still nothing up here at the spark plug. And I figured it was grounding out inside the distributor. Now, the good thing to have is one of these Lucas diagnosis manuals. You go through the ignition system on this, step by step, you absolutely will find your problem. I always have that as a reference if I forget any of the steps. So, pull the distributor out. First thing I notice, this is the distributor clamp. If it's tightened up enough to where this is turning into a V, it's over tightened. When you over tighten this, you can break the bottom of the distributor. See how it's broken right there? So now, if you were to send these off to like Advanced Distributor, he has a way of fixing them, but it costs you a lot more than a standard rebuild, because he machines that off and puts a sleeve on there. But that's why you don't keep cranking and cranking on these things. And so often I find these things over tightened, and they don't need to be anywhere near that tight. They just tight enough to not move. That's it. But the distributor was grounding out inside. So, of course, we got all this taped up here. So I just, rather than messing around with it, I just swapped the distributor out just to see. Throw it in there, and now we've got spark. So now we can move on, plug up this vacuum, feed it some fuel, and see if anything will happen. Since the distributor was in a position that wasn't where it was supposed to be to start with, and the new distributor could potentially have the gear on wrong or whatever, I had no idea where the timing was, so I just brought up compression on number one, look where number one cylinder was at, put it there, and I wasn't feeling much compression, so we'll see what happens. Now, since we do have the EGR hole here, and I'm working from this side, I can just spray a little bit down here just to see what it does. I'm just going to use a little bit of universal solvent, see if it'll just light off and make some noise. So I don't know where the timing needs to be yet. That to sit halfway right, that'd be nice. All right, well, we just got to keep moving the distributor back and forth a little bit until get it to do something. Oh, maybe. It's possible that's all it may want to do. Right about in there. It just doesn't want to go. All right, so here we are the next day. I've just kind of been playing a little bit with timing, just to try to see if we were actually close enough. I went ahead and took the, opened up the float bowls, cleaned them out because they were full of rust. Put a little bit of fuel in the float bowls, and yeah, you know, we'll see what happens now. I think I got to where it's kind of kicking a little bit, and well, it does run. Sounds like got some noises in there. Probably the water pump on that one. But it will run. And I wasn't going to let this thing beat me, because I have yet to get one with compression to actually run. So, well, we know this will actually run. Now we can take a look at the other car, see if it'll run. Hey, I bumped the timing a little bit. Now it'll sit in idle. And that noise is actually, I think, the starter and the ring gear touching, but yeah. Winning. All right, so now we can look at the 69. Now, as part of changing everything else over, I'm swapping radiators as well, because her original radiator was re-cored with a little thicker core for the California heat, and she wanted to keep it. So, I said earlier in the video, I don't have the keys to this car, and I still don't have the keys. Now, that doesn't mean we can't start this thing. We just got to go about it a little bit differently. So, since this still has the battery where it's supposed to be, and I don't actually have a battery I can just drop in there right now. I got some jumper cables hooked up to it. Got my little starter switch. We just take the white and brown wire from the end of the starter down there off, put one of the wires from this on that, one on the battery cable, and we're cranking. So now we just need to get fuel and spark. So now as for getting fuel to it, that's easy. You guys know the drill. Get my redneck fuel system out here. Now what I'll probably do before I actually put any fuel in the can, because it's empty at the moment, we'll just hit it with a little universal solvent and make sure it kicks over first. Now on to getting spark. So my old jump pack may not be so good anymore for actually jumping cars off, but still works fine as a 12-volt source. So we just ground out the ground side. We got a jumper wire going from the positive terminal to the positive terminal on the coil. So let's just see what happens. I'm not even going to check for spark. Let's just see what happens first. And then we'll check for spark, because you never know. All right, let's go back and check for spark. All right, well, I feel kind of stupid. I didn't have the jump pack on. Let's try it again, just to see what happens. All right, we can put some fuel to it. Looks like one of the carbs is leaking a little bit out of the float bowl. So we ain't got much time to screw around with this thing. Well, looks like both of them are leaking. All right, well, we know it runs. I don't think we're actually getting any fuel into it though, but hey, it runs. All right, well, just pull up the choke and she took right off. Now there's no coolant at all in it, so I don't want to run any longer than that right now, but once again, winning. I find these motors to be pretty tough little engines, and they seem to always just want to run, or most always. As long as you can get it to turn over, get some spark to it, even if it's reasonably weak, which I think was our biggest problem on the other one. Never got a good blue spark. And you got any kind of compression at all, they'll almost always take off and run without a ton of effort. Now, whether you get them running right is a whole nother story, but yeah, the old venerable BMC B-Series engine. They're good little mills.